What's good, y'all? So here we are. A lot of y'all have been in my DMs all week in regards to this Megan Thee Stallion situation and her dispute with her label. And I've been pretty vague about it. I've been real vague in my responses just simply because I did not want to speak or voice an opinion too early when I haven't been well informed. Everything that we've been hearing has been hearsay. It's been her word against theirs. And we all know that there's three sides to the truth. There's his side, her side, and the contract. And that's what I was waiting on. I was waiting on details of the actual contract to leak before I shared any thought. Now, I will say this though. Let me cover this up because I don't want anybody to get distracted real quick. I don't want to get distracted. But I will say when I first heard about it and when I first watched her video, I knew something was up. Like, I knew everything that she was saying it was more to it. And I say this only because she's an artist. Okay. Now, I'm not about to bash artists. I love y'all. I love y'all to death. I love me some artists, which is why I chose and made the decision to work with artists. I love artists. However, what a lot of people need to realize is that artists can be very emotional. And that's cool because when you're in your emotions, that's where all the creativity lies. So I don't expect artists not to be emotional. But we have to understand that artists are. Sometimes they're not very logical. Sometimes they don't move professionally. They move with emotions. Because I understand that, I'm able to talk and speak to an artist and work with them in a sense, right? Hold on, my dog, my cat, he act like a dog. He opened the door. All right, so like I was saying, there's a lot of artists can be very emotional, and when something doesn't go in their favor or go their way, they tend to react with emotion. I felt a lot of emotion in her delivery. I felt emotion in everything that she was saying. She was leaving some stuff out. It was like she wanted to rally up her fan base to get on her side to push whatever it is she was trying to put out. Now, a lot of people thought it was a marketing scheme, or, which we see a stunt. That's what I meant. A lot of people thought this was a marketing stunt or a publicity stunt for her project, which we've seen happen in the past. A lot of controversy happens. We are all talking about it, and then boom, they drop a project. I kind of felt like this could have been the case until Jay Prince shared his 2 cents and addressed the situation on his Instagram. If you guys don't know who he is, y'all need to hit up Google and find out. This dude is not someone that entertains marketing and publicity stunts or marketing schemes. He's not that type of dude. So when he says something, I'm like, oh, okay, there's more to the story. Now, like I said, I watched her on Angie Martinez. I watched her on Ebro in the morning. I saw her Breakfast Club interview. And even on those interviews, she couldn't say much because it's a legal matter now. She couldn't talk. So especially, I was really waiting to watch or see her on the Breakfast Club because Charlamagne has a way of asking the right questions. He asks those questions that everybody wants to know. And he does that because he's active on social media, and he says that so-and-so said this, so-and-so said that, so-and-so commented and said this. So he's like the people's champ when it comes to these interviews. So I was really anticipating that interview with the Breakfast Club, and even still, she couldn't say anything. She said, it's a legal issue. She couldn't talk on it. So I'm like, all right, here we are. We still don't know the real deal until Z. Let me move this over. Until Z dropped these tweets today. And I was like, hold on, wait a minute. Okay. Now, for you guys that may not know who Z is the editor-in-chief at DJ Booth. DJ Booth is not a DJ company, or he's not a DJ. DJ Booth is a blog or an online publication. Really, I don't even want to disrespect them and say that they're a blog, but they're an online publication that focuses on indie artists. They advocate for indie artists. I actually had the pleasure of hosting him in my class last year. He's based here in Chicago, but he works with DJ Booth. He works with Audio Mac. He's out there behind the scenes. He's out there doing it. He put this out here on Twitter, and I believe him. Like, this ain't no dude that's gonna share stuff like this. He has too many key relationships to report on something that isn't true. So when he put this out here, I was like, here we go. Now we talking. All right, hold on one second, John. I'm not about to edit this video either. My cat bust his butt in the room. Now he trying to get out. If y'all watch my stories, y'all know I got a crazy cat. He is crazy. All right, so he put this out, and I was like, yeah, now here we go. So what I want to do is go through this, break it down, and talk about everything that he shared, because this is what I was waiting on. All right, so first he said, he read the full recording contract, and here's what she receives. First, she gets 40% of her royalties. So she has a 60-40 split of her royalties with the label. And it says net. Net is after expenses. Okay, it's not gross. It's net after expenses. So once they done paid for everything, whatever the royalties they get back and that's left over, that profit, they split it. Megan gets 40%. Okay. Second, 70% of her merchandise. Again, that's net. So after expenses, whether it's buying, shipping of the merchandise, getting it printed and getting it made, all that cost, right? So the company, they're going to keep 30% because they got to make their money back. She gets 70. Okay? Well, not get their money back, but they have to earn a profit off of that investment. So once they're paid back, whatever's left, she gets 70, they keep 30. And again, that's net. Okay? Second, or the third one, is 70% of her performance revenue that's over $1,000. Now, again, that's net. There are expenses when you perform. You got to think about, the band or DJ, that or whoever she travels with, dancers, her crew, sound engineer, whoever she travels with to these shows. Those are expenses. So once those have been paid, whatever's left, if it's over $1,000, she gets 70% and the label keeps 30. Now, if it's less than 1,000, which we know Megan is not performing anywhere for under $1,000, she would keep 100% of that. All right. So he said this is a 360 deal. That's exactly what this is. 360 deal is when the label gets a piece of everything that you make, okay, in exchange for what they invested in you. All right. Which is not bad. Honestly, this isn't, a lot of people have said this, but when I first saw it, I'm like, this girl, remember when she signed to them? She was a nobody. I think she went viral on the internet around that time she signed, or I think she signed right before she went viral. But anyway, she was a nobody. And he was willing to invest all this money into her in exchange for, and this is what she would get out of it. She was a nobody. This is not a bad deal for somebody that has no leverage, that's not known, that has never put out a project or a single or anything. This is not bad on the first round. Okay, let's look at the next tweet. So then he says, Megan's deal calls for the delivery of one full LP record with two options, 2 additional albums, Of note, for an album delivery to count toward the deal, it must clock in at no less than 45 minutes. I love that. And this is why it's always good to have a contract and have a lawyer present in writing your contract, because there's a lot of little stipulations and there's the little nooks and crannies that you really got to cover in these contracts. As a label, I can say, hey, you got to give me 1 LP, but an artist could deliver me an EP or a project that clocks in at 10 minutes and say, here you go. Have 9 songs on there that's a minute long and say, here you go. Here's my LP. No, boo-boo. They put in here, it must clock in at no less than 45 minutes. I love the detail in that. So her run times for her last projects, her previous projects, she got Tina Snow, that was 30 minutes. Fever was 40 minutes. And this one that came out today is 24 minutes. So she still hasn't fulfilled this part of the contract. 1 full LP, and then with 2 additional albums or 2 options, that basically means that they have the right to request 2 additional albums from her if, they want. It's their discretion pretty much. She hasn't even fulfilled that. She released projects, but they were not 45 minutes long. Now, she could have added 1 more song to Fever and been done with it. She would have been done with it. She would have fulfilled that obligation there, but she didn't. It was 40 minutes. It's crazy. All right. Next, he said, in addition to her advance, 1501 committed for Tina Snow project a minimum of $60,000 and maximum of $100,000, including mastering and marketing costs. Come on now. So for that 40-minute project, they said we're going to invest anywhere between $60,000 and $100,000, and that's going to include the mastering and marketing of the project. The recording budget for the second and third committed albums, if they were to select that option, would have been picked up, assuming they picked up both options, would be the same. So for her 2 other projects that she would have done, they would have invested the same, 60 to 100. Mind you, I don't care how famous she is now. When she signed this contract, she wasn't famous, and they're promising and committing to investing these funds in her. How many of y'all artists would love for somebody to invest $60,000 to $100,000 in you? Come on now, come on, just to have something, right? Just to have some, because I know artists that struggle just to get a video done. I mean, it's just is what it is. Like, let's just keep it real. And he said, I'm not a lawyer, but based on everything I've read and everyone I've spoken with about this, people far smarter than me, I think Megan would lose in court. I would bet that Roc Nation tries to buy her out of her deal, with 1501 receiving future royalties as part of the deal. If I was 1501, I would be asking for the same thing, because they invested so much money in her. I mean, the music business is very risky, which is why a lot of people do not invest, because you don't know if an artist is going to blow or not. There's no way to know if you're going to make your money back. With other types of investments, you can kind of look at, like real estate. You can look at comps and see what other properties in that area has been selling for and whatnot. There's data for you to compare. There's data with artists, but there's so many variables. You cannot predict if an artist is going to make the money back or become successful. We see it all the time. So it's very risky. It's a very risky situation. So at this point, he's thinking that Roc Nation don't have no choice but to buy her out. And 1501 is going to receive future royalties. Like I said, I would too. If I'm investing all this money that helped propel you, my money, and I'm speaking as if I'm 1501, my money helped you attract Roc Nation, then hell yeah, I want some future royalties. Because if it wasn't for my money and my funds, you wouldn't have gotten this situation. You wouldn't have gotten on their radar, So it's like, come on now. I mean, to me, that's just fair. That's just fair. And then he says here, additional minor detail. The contract was delivered to Megan February 3rd, 2018. She signed and dated the contract on February 4th, 2018. One day. You sat with that contract for one day. Shit. People, look, people I've worked with would tell you I'll sit on the contract for a good, at least a week, because I want to look at it. I want to have my people look at it. We need to look at this before you sign anything, boo-boo. She sat with it one day. So this means that she was 22 and not 20 when she signed the contract, because she said she was 20. She was actually 22. Look, Megan fucked up. Like, excuse my language, but this is a case where an artist shot themselves in the foot. And I see this all the time. A lot of artists, because they're emotional, and because they just think with that emotion and really don't listen or have the proper people around them advising them. And if they do, they don't listen. Because they get in their feelings like that, a lot of artists tend to shoot themselves in the foot. I see it all the time. I see it at the little indie bedroom artist level, and I see it happen at the very top. They shoot themselves in the foot, and this is what we're seeing here. She straight up shot herself in the foot. Yes, you're on everybody's radar, but you haven't fulfilled your contract, which you signed at 22. Okay, like, come on, even your last project, she could have threw another song on there and called it a day. If you guys are watching, which I'm pretty sure that you are, just take a minute. Just take a minute and let's use another analogy. You buying a house, okay? You want to buy a house for your family. You need a house, right? You want a nice house. If you don't have the cash to buy that house outright, you got to go to the bank and get a mortgage. They're going to run a credit check on you, okay? They're going to check you out and see how you handle your money. Are you paying your bills on time? They're going to look at your income. Let's look at your income to debt ratio, meaning, do you make more than your bills, or do your bills every month cost more than, do you have more going out than you do have coming in? Meaning your debt and what you're paying on your bills every month is more than what you actually bring in, or is it in reverse? They take a look at everything before they give you some money. Now, there's a lot of places out here that will approve you. Not pre-approve, but they will approve you. Even if they'll say, oh, everybody's approved. Just like car loans. Everybody can get a car. We give everybody loans, no matter your credit score. But trust, that interest rate on that loan is going to be super high. Why? Because you're risky. You haven't shown that you can pay your bills on time. You haven't shown that, you're making enough money to even pay the bill. You haven't shown that. So they're going to say, we're going to give you money. Yeah, we're going to give you this money, this loan for this house or this car. But the interest rate is going to be super high. Okay, so the car may cost $2,000, but we're going to give you, we'll get the car for you, but you got to pay us back $2,000 plus an extra $5,000 on top of it. So the car costs $2,000, but you're going to have to pay us $7,000 just simply because you're risky. That's a crazy deal. But that's because you're risky. The same applies here with indie artists. We have to keep in mind that she was a new artist. She's not Beyonce. She's Beyonce from Girls Time. She's not Beyonce she's not Beyonce today. So we have to keep that in mind. And to me, this is a good deal. This is really a good deal. She can keep, let's scroll back up. She can keep 100% of her performance revenue. If it was under 1,000, no, the 70%. If it was over 1,000, the merchandise, the royalties. That's good. And now she's on everybody's radar. So she said in the video that she wanted to renegotiate the contract. That's cool, but you haven't even fulfilled the contract. She's been hot all this time, and she hasn't really fulfilled or did anything. She hasn't even put out a 45-minute project. She put out a 40-minute project. So it's like if you want someone to give you something, you got to give them something in return. That's just business. That's just business. No one is going to invest their hard-earned money into you if you don't have anything in return, nor are you showing that you really want to work with them like that. She's saying she want to continue working with them, but boo, this is not what you do. She's messing up this relationship and messing up, she's basically showing that she's emotional. She's showing that this, she doesn't care. It's about her. It's just not good to move like this and taking it to social media. I think that was, it's like you hot, but you ain't hot yet. You ain't that hot yet, and I just felt like she shouldn't have burned that bridge. She shouldn't have, they helped her. They helped put her on. So, to me, like I said, this was a good deal. They invested a lot in her. She's still getting paid. She's still getting a check. If she wanted to renegotiate, do that. Renegotiate. But don't go online bashing them when you really fully didn't give them anything. Now, people will say, well, they're still getting paid. They're still getting paid. The whole point of having a contract is for you to abide by the contract. This is why contracts are in place. The contract is in place to hold both parties accountable. To hold both parties. Hear me when I say this. A lot of people hate the word contract or agreement. Don't be afraid of that word. The contract is to hold both parties accountable. My contracts that I have with my artists, I say in them, these are my responsibilities as your manager or whoever or whatever I'm doing for them. And here's your responsibilities as an artist. This is what we agree on, because it's not going to work if we ain't working together. Okay, so the contract is to hold both parties accountable. And I strongly believe in fair contracts. This is why a lot of people like working with me, because I believe in fairness. Fairness at the end of the day. I think this is fair considering who she is at that time. As far as what they could do now, that's totally on them in the court at this point. But starting out, this is dope. If one of my artists got this deal right here, I would say let's work it. Let's work it. Let's knock out these LPs. Let's fulfill this contract and maximize all this money that they're investing. Let's take it and run with it. Because like I said, I know artists now that can't even afford videos, music videos, and just little stuff. 60 to 100,000. Come on. So yeah, like I said, she shot herself in the foot. It's gonna be dope to see what happens. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents. I don't think it's a publicity stunt. I think it may have been for her, but it really backfired. And yeah, it's just not a good way of doing business. So at this point, we just gotta wait it out and see what happens. Let's talk about it in the comments.